Okay, today is not going to be really a typical Wednesday evening well service. Every semester, we block out a couple of weeks at the end of the semester to provide an opportunity for something very special, something that we've done at CCH for a very long time. There's something that happens every semester, and that is we have people who have been involved at CCH in one form or the other, and they graduate. And they move on to a new chapter in life. And while we are both, we're excited for them, this is a bittersweet thing. We're really excited for them because it's not natural for somebody to stay in college for their entire life. And we don't want that for you, and you don't want that for you. A lot of you seniors know that after like 2 weeks in college, you're almost ready to graduate. So we don't want that for you guys. We love the time that we have with you. And so it is amazing to see you guys graduate and move on to other things, but it's also it can be very bitter because people that we have come to know, people that we have known, who we love, people who have been integral parts of our ministry aren't going to be there anymore. We won't be able to interact with them on a daily basis. So what we try to do is give them an opportunity each semester to share a little bit of wisdom, to share a little bit about their story, their time here, maybe share a little bit about what God has done in their lives during their college years, during their involvement at CCH. And this concept, we call this I Go Bound. These are the I Go Bounds. And I didn't go to CCH. I didn't go to Mizzou. I didn't live here. My wife did. And so I heard this term, I Go Bound, and I was always like, what a weird thing to name something. It doesn't seem really all that grammatically correct. It probably is. I'm not an English major. But I Go Bound, what is that? And then you really learn where this tradition came from. And what it is it comes out of the book of Acts. And this is chapter 20, verse 22. And Paul is speaking to the elders in Ephesus, the Ephesian elders, and he has spent some time with them. He spent some time with their church. He greatly loves these people, and he is about to leave there. And we've talked about a couple times this semester, Paul's life was difficult. It had a lot of things, but he loved the churches. He loved the people that he was with, and he always built them up and encouraged them. And so as he's leaving this place, this city, he reminds them of their time together. He talks about the things that have happened in the church and the things that have happened with him and these people. He reminds them of those things, and then he explains where he's going. And in verse 22, I'm going to read in the ESV first. It says, and now behold, I am going to Jerusalem, constrained by the Spirit, not knowing what will happen to me there. But if you read that in the King James Version, which this is how I know how long we've been doing this tradition, is that it came from there. But if you read it in the King James Version, it says, and now behold, I go bound in the Spirit unto Jerusalem, not knowing the things that shall befall me there. And essentially says, I am going from here. Here's the things that we have been through together. Here's the things that have happened in this church in the city. And now I go. I go bound in the Spirit, led by God. In his final message to the people, he passes on some wisdom. He imparts some of the things that he wants them to know. And in the same way, we want to give our students, our graduating seniors, an opportunity to pass something on to you guys. This is what my time here meant, and now I go bound. So the end of each of theirs is going to have something to do with what's next. So we get to hear about their time here, and then we get to hear about what is happening next, and we get to celebrate with them. So knowing all of that and where this comes from, I'm going to go ahead and invite our first graduate up, and they're going to come here. They know the drill, and we're just going to enjoy in some wonderful testimonies and stories. And then at the end, we're going to have an opportunity to just pray over them as they move on to that next phase of life. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So we'll go ahead and have our first graduate make their way up.
Okay. Oh, is this thing on? I don't know if I need to tilt it more. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay, for all you guys that don't know me, I'm Maddy, and I apologize in advance for this because I finished writing this on the drive here, but we'll get started. So I thought I'd start this out by kind of telling you a story about how I got connected to CCH. So my pastor from back home had told me about CCH, so I checked out the website and found a calendar of events and saw that there was a freshman night. So I was like, all right, bet, I'm gonna go. This was my first time ever at CCH, and I just showed up. And as Corey started calling out names from a clipboard, that's when I realized this was like a sign up beforehand type of event. Anyway, we get on the bus and start heading out of town. I'm sitting there on the bus, frantically texting my mom, like, I have no idea where these people are taking me. I'm sending you my location. I think you need to come and get me. Clearly, I survived. And we all know that college is full of uncomfortable situations, and that freshman night was definitely one I haven't forgotten. From there, I started going to the well and decided to go to Barbados that December, and then moved into CCH for that spring semester when the main house was the original girls' house. My freshman year self would literally be so astonished at where I am now. I was insecure, a huge introvert, and considering transferring back home because of academic issues. And then sophomore year came, and I almost stayed back home that semester because of a huge surgery. And a disclaimer, if you have to get facial surgery, you'll most likely have to reintroduce yourself to Lydia and Corey because they won't recognize you. But if I hadn't come back to campus that fall semester, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet Morgan, and who has been such a light in my spiritual life. So reflecting over the years has me realizing how many uncomfortable situations I've been in and how I've reacted to those situations has said a lot about how much trust I've put in God. Time and time again, I felt like I wasn't having the right college career. But reflecting back has shown me that all I had to go through to get to the good stuff. I had to go through some bad friendships to recognize what a quality friendship looks like. And that's when I realized why God had me go through the things I went through. God put me in so many uncomfortable situations because he knows that those uncomfortable situations were going to test my faith. A comfortable life means we're putting God in this little box, and he is so much, much bigger than a box. So if you get anything from this kind of spiel, let it be this: get comfortable with being uncomfortable. God knows how much you can handle, and he wants to push you in directions where all that you can do is put your faith and trust in him, because he knows what he's doing. He wants us to have to rely on him. So over the 4.5 years I've been involved with CCH, I have a little to-do list for you all. I love to-do lists. So first one is make it a priority to serve God's people, whether that be through CCH ministries, going to Barbados or Mexico, or an MAB trip on campus. Don't forget to sign up for CCH events, but do go to the fall retreat. You might just end up finding your best friend. And then for the seniors graduating in May, I know it's a weird time, but really treasure each last moment. It's going to be a weird semester. We all know it's been, but really take the time to let it sink in. Say yes more often, but know when it's time to rest. And finally, Lance isn't here, but don't sit next to him on a flight to Barbados. He will torture you the entire 4 hours. So with that being said, I go bound to graduate with a bachelor in exercise physiology and nutrition and a bachelor in health science. And I'm still continuing my job search and probably going back to school at some point. So yeah.
Now that the short person is gone. Hi guys, my name is Morgan Cunningham, and I am a super senior, so 4 years plus a semester. And I graduate in 2 weeks and 2 days. This is definitely not how I pictured, or probably any of the seniors pictured, graduating from Mizzou. I didn't even think I was graduating from Mizzou. Not because, I wasn't good at school, but because I went to the University of Arkansas first. And I went there my freshman year because I had an amazing architecture program, and then I just felt like it was my home away from home. And I made some amazing friends from Texas. I joined a sorority. I loved it. I love my friends. I love my sorority sisters, and especially the chocolate milk in the dining hall. I'll tell you, it's the best around. But, however, I soon came to the realization that I was so broken in my faith. And that revelation hit me hard because I grew up in the church, and to realize I had fallen so far away from Christ, it really made me ashamed of myself. So that is when I decided to apply to Mizzou. My sister was currently going there, and she found this place called CCH, and she told me she was going to live there, and I was like, yes, I think I need this for my soul. A place where like-minded and Christ-centered people live and mingle together. Well, that was like 3.5 years ago, and I think CCH is still good for my soul. CCH has brought me amazing friendships, one of which is my best friend, Maddy, who isn't sick of me yet after 2 years. And you know you found a forever friend when you bond over Jesus. CCH has also helped me restore, strengthen, and deepen my faith and relationship with Christ. The life groups, the small groups, and weekly worship I have attended over these past 3 years has helped me mend my soul from what it was like when I first arrived at Mizzou. And the little bit of wisdom I have gained through my time at college and CCH can be summed up by this funny story. I went out on a date earlier this semester, and yes, girls, he did pick me up, and yes, he did open my door. Swoon, right? But anyway, we started talking about our faith at dinner, and I was like, yes, I think I found a good Christian boy. However, the more we talked, the more I felt like my beliefs were being attacked and made fun of, and so I quickly ended it there. Then I got home, and I told my roomies the rundown, and one of them said to me, wow, Morgan, you were so strong in your faith. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Gone was a girl who had broken faith, and now stands a girl who not only follows God, but seeks him every day and doesn't let anyone bash her faith. So, just as it says in 1 Corinthians 6:17, be he who unites himself with the Lord is one with him in spirit. So, hold on to your faith and hold on to it tight, because it is only the real comfort in this crazy world that we now live in. So, I go bound back to my hometown of Galena, Missouri, where I graduate with a bachelor's degree of architecture, where I will wait until the fall of 2021, where I start my studies towards getting my master's degree in architecture. Thank you.
Same pretty good height. Okay, so my name is Cayla, for those of you guys who don't know me, because some of you may be looking to the person next to you wondering who I am. Others will be confused when I say that this is the first and only semester that I have lived at CCH, because you saw me practically living in the conference rooms of the main house for the last couple years, studying with Jaden, Cade, Ethan, Aiden, Nathan, and a few other people. But that's how I got connected to CCH in the first place. After earning my associate's degree from MACC, I transferred to Mizzou to the business school where I knew no one. Then this random girl in a couple of my classes ended up sitting next to me for the first week and introduced herself as Jaden Offit, my long-lost twin. No, she didn't say that, but turns out we do have the same birthday on December 29th, and she loves to remind me as often as she can that she's 4 hours older than I am. Along with learning that we had both transferred schools that semester, she started telling me what it was like to live at CCH, more about her boyfriend Cade, and the flag football team she was on. She even dragged me to the most uncomfortable and awkward dinner that we were studying for our stats class at the Heidelberg, and almost hit someone on the crosswalk the first time we rode in a car together. Why I stuck around, I still have no idea. Long story short, I ended up joining a CCH flag football team a couple weeks later with a few people I'm graduating with. And I didn't even know anyone on the team. Jaden signed me up for not her team, for someone else's. Turns out it was the best decision I could have made, though. I quickly became a constant third wheel to Jaden and Cade, met Madison and Bethany, who would walk me to my car in the parking garage after games, and dislocated my finger twice outside of the flag football season. That unfortunate event did result in me having surgery, but the night before my surgery, I ended up going to cheer on my team and met the infamous Lance Tamarius, where he made fun of me for breaking my finger while playing flag football, but then proceeded to give me a parking pass at CCH for the rest of the semester so I wouldn't have to ride the shuttle in a cast. Saying yes to Jaden and flag football was one example of me saying yes to something completely new and a little uncomfortable. God is so cool, though, and knows exactly what he is doing, even if it doesn't make sense to you at the time. Some advice I want to leave you all with is to say yes, even if it doesn't make sense at the time. I'm not going to say you need to go and break your finger and have surgery because of it. That's not what I'm saying at all. Please don't do it. But say yes to whatever God is calling you to do in your life. For me, that also looked like saying yes to joining the True Lost Business Ambassadors team and having the opportunity to travel to Kansas City and to Denver to talk about how awesome Mizzou is. That included saying yes to Camp True Lost as a transfer student where I didn't know a single person, but I ended up meeting a lot of awesome people, being a counselor the next year with my awesome co-leader, Kristen, and being a director the following year. I ended up saying yes to an MU extension class where I was able to partner with AT&T and travel to their headquarters in Dallas. And even though I have no interest in corporate business, I met a lot of cool people and talked to some executives, even though I didn't know anybody taking the class, and it was a little out of my comfort zone. One of the most impactful yeses that I said was to a random mission trip, though, back in May of 2018, to go build a home for a family in need in Mexico with 4 people that I knew on the trip. The catch was, though, I had to pay the money and fill out all the insurance and everything the next day. God was telling me to say yes. I had no idea why, but I am so grateful that I did. Anyone who knows me knows I have the biggest heart for missions and the biggest heart for Casas por Cristo specifically. I took this 1-week short-term mission trip to fall in love with the work that they do to serve in God's kingdom. 2 months after that trip, I still had that mission trip high that everybody talks about being on after you go on a trip. And I ended up signing up for an internship the next summer to help lead homes like I had done that summer. That summer was amazing. I met some of the best people who I interned with and worked with, but also people that I got to build with from all over the country and I'm still connected with today. The next summer, I said yes to Casas again, where I interned in their finance department, this time as a part of my degree program. Many people told me to get experience working somewhere else, but God said follow him, so I did. I was exactly where I needed to be and met a couple of my best friends, Rachel and Alex, became attached to an adorable 2-year-old named Brantley J, and met a pretty good guy along the way. I was able to see God work in my life through school, internships, and so many amazing relationships because I said yes to God's calling for my life, even when it was out of my comfort zone and took me 1,000 miles away. I'm not saying you have to travel across the country to go serve in God's kingdom and to follow him. Listen to him, surrender to his word, and follow him wherever he may be leading you during your time in college. Because as cheesy as it may sound, you'll never get this time back with your friends, with the people that you're close with, and with all the different opportunities that are right at your fingertips, like all the events at CCH, whether that's Barbados, Mexico, or any other trip. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." This was my theme verse at Casas my first summer and has encouraged me during my decision on where to go after college. At this time, I go bound to El Paso, Texas, where I will be a full-time missionary with Casas por Cristo for a year through their residency program. Even though I'll still be living in the States, I will be a missionary serving down there in God's kingdom through their offices. I'll be working alongside mostly the finance department, working in their store doing inventory and merchandise, but also I'll get to lead builds like I did during my first summer internship with them. Through ministry, it's important to be flexible and serve with a willing heart for the good of others and those less fortunate. I'm excited to see how God is going to use me there, and any of you guys who know me have seen how Casas has been one of the biggest constants in my life through everything in my walk with faith, through these different people that I've met, all the connections and stories I've been able to tell, and have posts like this up later too. As I finish up tonight, I'm asking you guys to pray for me as I pursue full-time ministry, because it is a big step to take. Fully put everything in your life out there and surrendering all your decisions, financially, spiritually, everything to him and what you're going to be doing. Accepting this position with Casas means I will raise monthly and one-time donations to support myself. So that's anything from rent to gas, car insurance, food, anything like that. So at this time, if anyone is wanting or feels led to support me in this way, please reach out to me, talk to Lance, talk to the other ministers. I will be a full-time missionary, even though I will be living in the States, but it's something I am really excited about pursuing right after college. It's something I've felt led to for a long time, even when I didn't realize it, but everyone else around me knew this is exactly where I was going to end up. So at this time, if you guys just want to pray for me as I'm graduating before I move, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So, for those of you that may not know me at this point, my name is Anna Lewis, and I've been at CCH for 3.5 years. I first came to Mizzou for its legendary journalism program, and once I knew I was coming to Mizzou, CCH was a no-brainer. My parents lived at CCH while they were in college, and they met here. My older brother lived at CCH and met his wife here, and my older sister lived here and met her husband here as well. And now that I've met my spouse here, my parents are 3 for 4 on children married at the Christian Campus House. And while it is a great place to meet a spouse, it is so much more than that, as you all know. So I'd like to share a couple of things that I have learned, a little bit of advice from my time here. The first piece of advice is be willing to give second impressions and get to know people. I'm going to tell you the story of how I met my roommate and friend, Rachel Conrad. Where's Rachel at? There she is. When I was a freshman, Rachel and I came to the same Mizzou orientation back when they did those in person. And our parents saw each other, and they had gone to college together, so they knew each other. And they introduced us to each other. And later we went to this alcohol EDU presentation thing in this big lecture hall in physics. And so I was sitting in there, and Rachel sat with me because we only know each other in this huge room. And they began the presentation, and I want you to keep in mind that we're in like the third row, right in front of the presenter. And I think it was a she. She starts speaking, and Rachel's head hits the desk, and she is out asleep for the rest of the hour-long talk, I think. She slept through the entire presentation. And that was my first impression of Rachel Conrad. And if I had gone off of my first impression, I would have just thought she was a person who slept all the time, which is not totally correct. When I became Rachel's roommate, I had to give her kind of a second and third and fourth impression. And I learned lots of wonderful things about my friend, like that she has awesome art skills, and she's a great drummer, and she is the queen of memes, and she talks about really deep things and gives really good advice, and she really loves God. So my advice from that is be willing to give a second impression and get to know people, because you'd want the same for you, right? And my second piece of advice has already been given tonight several times. So, repetition, this means it's important. Say yes. If someone invites you to join them for lunch or movie night or Friday night Frisbee, say yes. Don't be the CCH hermit. Get out and hang out, and if a cute guy asks you if you want to go to Sonic and you think there are going to be other people there, and then show up and realize that there is no one else there and it's definitely a date, say yes anyway. And if he later asks you to marry him, say yes to that too. And don't just say yes to the fun stuff, say yes to the stuff that is not comfortable. During the summer before my junior year, I think, I was considering working on summer staff at Harrisburg Christian Church. I think it was Amy Cobb and Soraya Barton that put me onto that. And of course, it's a program where you live there for the summer. And living with strangers and away from my family did not sound fun to me. I'm kind of a homebody, and I like to be with my family. But I realized that I really needed to grow spiritually. I was in sort of a dead place, and I needed to keep growing over the summer. So I said yes, and it was honestly one of the best ministry experiences of my life. And I got to hang out with kids and plan a VBS and tutor and teach kids about the Bible and hang out with some great friends from CCH and my future husband. So say yes. And my final piece of advice is to also say no. And when I say no, I don't mean, just say no to everything. I mean, don't overcommit. If you're like me and you're driven by tasks and achievement, you want to take on everything. But if you're like me, you need to hear this. You can't always take 18 credit hours and double major and work part-time and be involved in 3 CCH ministries and travel on the weekends and sell makeup and be your own boss and start a charity and run a small multinational corporation. I didn't do most of those things, but you get the point. The Bible says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And college students do not have a lot of treasure, but we do have a lot of time. So spend your time wisely and recognize that the things that you make time for are the things you care about. So having given advice, I want to say thanks to my great roommates for not complaining too much about weird schedules and all the wood and tools I leave on the floor. And your cooler. I use Rachel's cooler is a nice box shape, and it's good for catching shavings. And she has graciously allowed me to use it. I also want to say thank you to my parents. They're not here, but they might see a recording of this or something, who have loved me and cheered me on. And of course, I want to thank the kindest and most thoughtful man I know, and my favorite person in the world, Cody. You can never know how much your love and support have meant to me through this past year and 8 months, through some difficult times, and the difficult program that is journalism. So, with that said, I go bound to marry Cody Campbell and become Anna Campbell. And I am so excited to be able to spend the rest of my life with him and to not have to kick him out of my house at the 12 a.m. curfew anymore. And I also go bound to get a little bit more education. I'm going to be getting my bachelor's in journalism in a couple weeks, but I'll be pursuing a master's in journalism, and Cody and I will be living in Columbia near the Crossing, so come visit as we finish up our degrees. So thank you guys, and I'll see you around.
Hello, I'm Zach Jones. I've been around CCH for about 1.5 or 2 years now. I'm just going to give some advice here about being a college student. So, advice I would give is have a good life balance between the things that you want to do and the things that you have to get done for classes and things like that. Being a college student can be very stressful, but there are a lot of fun aspects to college, like going to football games, hanging out with people, and things. So manage your time and allow time to be with friends, to be with God, and to do the things that you need to get done. Figuring out the balance can be hard to do, especially being a college student with as much free time as you get. So, yeah, just try working through it. Don't play video games all day, even though it's a whole bunch of fun. I would also recommend going to all your classes so that you can get all the hints from your professors for exams. I've gotten hints on exams just for being one of 2 people in a class of 400. So it isn't sometimes helpful, especially when you're on Zoom. And then also join them in office hours. Some professors are willing to go out of their way and help you more than most professors will. So in saying that, I've gone to office hours and gotten jobs from professors, which is really nice, letters of recommendation, and life advice from professors on where to go after I graduate. So it's helpful, and you can see where they have been. So the last piece of advice I would say is to get out and explore Columbia. Columbia has a whole bunch of nice trails. MU campus is really nice, and you can make a whole bunch of friends just by saying, hey, do you all want to go walk around campus or go get food or anything like that? So that is some advice that I found beneficial throughout my college career. So I go bound to stay here in Columbia looking for a job in the mechanical engineering field. And if I can't find a job, I'm applying for a master's degree in mechanical engineering here at Mizzou. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jake Vaughn, and you might know me as the second floor house dad. So to start out my I Go Bound, I was kind of thinking about some of the different totals that I've collected as I was here at CCH. And thinking back to the freshmen that arrived at 704 South College Avenue in August of 2017, I had no idea that I would have the privilege to experience 3.5 years, 4 Mr. CCHs, 5 roommates, 7 finals week breakfasts, the experience of having 25 children, going to roughly 50 meals for missions, 112 plus hours each of the well, Bible studies, service projects, and something like 17,000 miles of travel. 13,000 of that was to Israel and back, but you know. And actually fewer late nights than you might think. But guys, that's not the limit. I was nowhere near as involved as you can be, and there's boundless opportunities for you to go out to seek and find. We're beyond blessed to have this place because we're surrounded by Christ-like individuals and Christ-like love in our brothers and sisters. They provide a safe haven for us to grow physically, mentally, personally, and spiritually, and just be our interesting, sometimes weird selves. And most importantly, it provides a harbor from which we can sail out and find others who need that love and who we can serve. So I'd like to leave you with a couple of main points that I've learned while I was here. First, like pretty much everybody else has said, but in a slightly different manner, if you've got a chance to go, go. As a caveat to that, though, don't just go. Take the chance to go and to serve. So whether that's a friend asking you to go to Andy's, or go to a retreat, or go on a mission trip, there's a high probability that you won't regret it. But the things you might regret is not going. I didn't end up going to the Mexico mission trip when I was a freshman, but the next year I did go, and I had the time of my life. Of course, as a junior, coronavirus came around and canceled that trip, and so you never know when the last chance you're gonna have to do something is. So go ahead and take that opportunity. And don't forget, as much as you go to better yourself, to learn and grow, go for what you can do to others. Even if it's a trip to Andy's or Poncheros or something, it can be a simple act of holding open a door or giving somebody a smile, back before masks, of course. But there's always some way that you can show God's love to others, even if you don't have the chance to evangelize to them. Finally, I want to remind you that Jesus loves you, and so do a lot of the folks here. When you get the chance to come up here and give your I Go Bounds, we all hope that you've had the chance to learn and grow and that you've taken advantage of that opportunity. Maybe you'll leave here with a new skill, like learning to play guitar, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have a gaggle of lifelong friends, or unfortunately, we may never hear from you again. Maybe you'll find a spouse. Maybe you'll find heartbreak, or maybe you'll find neither. Maybe you'll walk out with a diploma, hopefully, but you may not. Regardless of what happens, what we hope and pray for the most for you is that you've become a better person, a better Christian, and a better neighbor. Because once this time is over, there won't ever be another neighborhood like this one again. But we hope, and I hope, that this community prepares you for the ones to come. And it can. So live it and go. I go bound to graduate with a bachelor's in plant science. I'll return to Columbia for my master's and finish out my term as house dad. and hopefully at some point get to decorate the ring finger of my favorite person. But thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen, and in the next couple of weeks, I will be graduating from the University of Missouri with a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in marketing. Just for a quick recap of my time at CCH, I checked out the ministry during welcome week of my freshman year, and while I lived in the dorms, I walked over to CCH multiple times throughout any week, really just for any reason I could find. I moved in May after my freshman year so I could have a place to stay during my summer internship in Columbia. And let me tell you, CCH is quite a different environment when there's like 4 people in the house and just construction everywhere all the time. It's very weird, kind of like quarantine was last semester. But yeah, so starting sophomore year, I lived in room 3 in the Furneaux house for 2 years, and room 3 is arguably the best room at CCH, and I will probably argue about it because it's top tier. So I lived there with 4 different roommates, and I really don't think I'm a bad roommate, but they just kind of like trickled in and trickled out. I don't know. And I just recently moved into a rental house with my roommate, Madison. And during those past 3.5 years with CCH, I was able to go skiing for the first time on the ski trip, attend multiple retreats, serve with the International Ministry Leadership Team, Blue Ridge Elementary Clubs, technically lead a life group, even though they're like the most low-maintenance life group ever. You guys are wonderful. I got to bring in recycling bins that you see in the back of the parking lot, learn to play piano, help lead worship, and compete in a spectacular prank war. Hopefully you guys have seen evidence of that. Hopefully it's ongoing. So from all of that in my time at CCH, I just wanted to share a few nuggets with you guys. Sorry, Emma, they're not dino nuggets. But God and his people have really taught me a lot of things during my time at Mizzou and CCH. So my first nugget comes from a good friend of mine. Many of you might know her, Rachel Foley. Rachel and Rebecca Jennings were the brave souls who led my freshman life group and truly made me into the person I am today. I met my lifelong best friends through that group, thanks to Rachel's pivotal advice. While I was struggling with a very lonely freshman year in the dorms, I literally walked to CCH one night at 10 p.m. crying and asked Rachel if I could sit with her on her couch and deal with so many emotions as a tiny little freshman. I was constantly surrounded by wonderful people in my life group and so many other students at CCH, yet I was so alone. I needed friends who would be with me in the trenches as I navigated a really tough time in my life. In that moment, Rachel suggested I offer others the gift of going second. When you're looking for deeper relationships with people around you, offering them the gift of going second gives them the freedom to open up as well. While it took a solid amount of courage for that shy little freshman, Kristen, when I shared my deepest worries with my, at the time, surface-level friends, it opened the door for them to share similar things they had been dealing with and provide a foundation for an eternal friendship. So while CCH is a super fun place to be, and it's a dream to be surrounded by your friends 24/7 and live with them and everyone you can dream of, I know it can be very easy to get wrapped up in those surface-level friendships and still lack the comfort and true support that comes from a Christ-like friend who's in the trenches with you. If that's you, I encourage you to give your friends the gift of going second. And if someone is giving you the gift of going second, listen to them well and meet them where they are. So within that nugget, I cannot recommend CCH life groups enough. I would not be standing here today giving this I Go Bound if I had not found an incredible community of honest, real, goofy ladies in my life group. Through literal highs and lows of college, find a group rooted in the Bible that values you, the real you, tears and all, and provides deep friendships beyond Monday nights. So if you haven't already, let joining a life group at CCH be the first thing you do coming back in the spring. My second nugget comes from what I have been recently reading in the book of Ezekiel. Each chapter hasn't been the most exciting thing to read, but as I continue through the book, there's a recurring theme, or recurring line, I should say. Over and over in God's prophecies through Ezekiel, he says, "Then they will know that I am the Lord." So far, in 33 chapters, he has said the phrase 39 times. Believe me, I counted each of them. And as I reflect on this obviously important phrase, God reminds me that not everything that happens is for your personal benefit or blessing. That's kind of hard to hear in our performance and success-driven culture, especially as I stand here about to graduate college, not to mention as a business major when I'm taught everything I do is to provide better performance. However, here God is showing Ezekiel and the Israelites that sometimes events and circumstances happen merely for you and others just to know that he is the sovereign Lord. Did something good happen? Probably so you know that God is Lord. Did something bad happen? Probably so you know that God is Lord and he's in control. My last little nugget is to shout out Proclaim. I know you guys have all heard me give announcements for Proclaim in the past, but I wanted to do it one more time. I know you all love the Lord and hopefully love your major and career choice you've decided on so far. Proclaim is an organization that combines both of those and helps prepare you for navigating what it looks like to be a Christian in the predominantly secular workplace. No one likes a Bible thumper in their job, but God and employees appreciate an employee who works hard with a purpose, is trustworthy, and cares about others around them. And that's exactly what God has called us into. So with that, please check out Proclaim on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just to hear a little bit more about the organization. I'm always available. David is actually here who runs Proclaim, so you can meet him. We have our last meeting tomorrow, so again, hit me up. I'd love to see each of you there. And actually, my last little nugget is to thank the ministers who have taken the time to invest in me one-on-one. I truly value servant leadership, and it meant so much to be met right where I was in the middle of college chaos. So I want to personally thank Lance, David, Emily, Chris, Abby, Becky, and Nick. Thank you each so much for your great examples of Christ. And with that, I go bound to stay in Columbia, continuing to learn to cook with my wonderful roommate Madison, raising a golden doodle puppy in the near future, and working full-time as a marketing service assistant with DJ Hines State Farm Agents.
I just want to thank you. I appreciate everything that each and every one of you have done, the people that aren't here, that Addie and I have got to grow close to. It really has made this time worth it. It went fast. My parents don't believe that it's a semester early. They thought it was a semester late. Not that they wanted me to do it in 3 years, but they just thought this was 4.5. So no, we're done. We're graduating, and it was fun. I go bound to get married to Addie, and so in about 6 months, I'll be told what I'm supposed to do. So I appreciate it, and have a good time.